Take a farmer,
a photographer,
and a teenage girl,
buy a bus,
add a dog,
and let the adventure begin.
Welcome to episode 4 of O'Neill's On the Run Life in a Bus. Today we're having a little chat with Alexandra about her thoughts on a little what it's like to live in the bus and what happened when we bought the bus, the teen perspective on things. And just to recap, we bought the bus, we've sort of partially ripped it apart and started modifying it. We went on our first trip out west to tour Western New South Wales, covered that in Ep 3, and here we are in Ep 4, ready to get the teenager perspective on life. She looks not so happy. We can't see you smirking in over the podcast, Ali. And the motivational for this week, we are afraid of not knowing what comes next, and so we make our lives predictable. Don't be afraid of what comes next. You'll be okay. Resonate with you at all there, Ali?
A little bit.
Okay, Ali, so give us a little bit of a rundown. What was your life like 2019, just pre-COVID, pre-bus life?
Well, honestly, I don't remember a lot of it. But it was going to school, not very... school was a bit miserable for me.
Academically good?
Academically good, yeah. We're at a very strict sort of Christian school that definitely prioritised academics over student happiness. But it was... I don't remember a lot of it, but it wasn't exactly, peak amazingness.
No, it was just, I guess it's that, was it year 9?
Yeah, year 9.
Year 9, cliquey teenage girl.
Yeah.
Pretty typical.
All of the fun stuff.
All of the good teenage girl business going on. Yeah, and played netball.
Yeah, played netball.
Had a good group of close little friends.
Yeah.
Not a lot of hobbies outside of netball. Didn't have a job yet.
No.
No?
Just very casual, down on the low sort of stuff.
And lived on a farm. You had a dairy cow.
Yes, I had a dairy cow, Marmalade. Loved her dearly, except for waking up in winter at 7 a.m. to milk the cow. So
At what time did we wake up to milk?
6.
That's a bit more.
Yeah, because I was on the bus by 7.
Yeah. So, yeah, we lived on a farm. Ali, her whole life's lived rurally, getting up early, getting on the bus early, on the bus by 7 most days, home between 4:30 and 5, lived all over New South Wales on various cattle properties. That was a little bit of background, Ali. Now, do you remember when we bought a bus?
So I was talking to Mum before. I actually remember the conversation that started when they mentioned that they were going to buy a bus. So just come off school camp, and the first thing that she says to me, not even hi, hello, how are you? It's, oh, we're going to buy a bus. I'm like, well, that's a bit weird. It took a bit of time to process. And then we went and looked at the buses, which was interesting. It didn't particularly interest me at the time. I was just like, okay, cool. They're buying a bus.
I think you sat in the car actually when we looked at this bus.
Oh yeah, I did. I'm pretty sure I wasn't feeling too good that day. Yeah, but I just remember the conversation that started it. Just come off school camp, and you're like, "We're gonna buy a bus." I was like, "What?"
Did you think we're a little bit bonkers?
Absolutely.
And at that point, though, we were going to just travel around, and it was going to be a bit of a hobby, like a caravan, I guess, do our holidays in it and things. I thought maybe I'd take it to some horse shows or something so I could sleep comfortable.
Yeah.
Permanent life in a bus really wasn't a thing yet, I guess.
Yeah.
Although,
was it really on the table, or if it was on the table, it didn't really click in my mind that we were doing it?
And I don't think it clicked in our mind at that point that we were going to live in a bus.
Yeah.
I think we were going to tour around a bit in a bus.
Yeah.
But we hadn't got to the point where we were going to tour in it and live in it full time. And then we your trip out west, we heard last episode about the Broken Hill meltdown.
Yeah.
What did you notice about your trip, our first trip, or what did you like and what didn't you like?
I didn't particularly like a lot. didn't like the lifestyle. I didn't like being offline at the start. It was very irritating, I'm gonna say, especially being in a close presence with Thomas. Uh, by the end of that trip, I did want to stab him. In all honesty,
or Dad. You could just call him Dad, but Thomas.
Thomas.
will do.
Yeah. It was interesting, but it definitely wasn't. I felt very claustrophobic.
Yeah, lack of privacy, I guess, is a big thing, especially as a teenager. I can only imagine, you're literally 15 feet from your parents any time that we're inside. So
Yeah.
that's taken a little bit of getting used to. It's been a bit confrontational at times. I guess you could say that's the bus life fun fact for the day. There is no privacy in a bus, and we are all well acquainted with each other's bowel habits, bathroom schedules, teeth brushing procedures. We know the ins and outs of every facet of each other's lives now because we are literally 15 feet apart at any given time.
Yeah, and it's made worse because Dad likes to piss me off. I'll be trying to sleep and he'll just stand there flicking the lights on and off. Just wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. So that's you got to have a dad that loves to wind up his teenage daughter, right? Yeah, maybe. So do you remember, what was your best part about the West trip?
Trying to think.
Opal mining?
Oh yes, opal mining. Yes.
I thought opal mining was a.
Yeah, again, forgetful memory. But yeah, opal mining was wonderful. I heard Mum mention before that she found that I found the piece of opal. I thought that was really cool, and I love opals especially. So
yeah, we kind of went that way because Ali loves Opal Hunter Show, and we thought we'd go out there and see if we found any, and found a little tiny piece. So that was something. And the lows of that first trip.
Being in a confined space with Dad. Being in a confined space with Dad.
And being in a confined space with Dad.
Yeah.
So I always say that Tom and Ali are like the same person. They're like a clone of each other, and when they try to communicate, there's like two cavemen grunting at each other. So they either get on fabulously or they butt heads horrendously. There's sort of no middle ground with Tom and Ali, but
no, I'm wonderful at communicating, just not with him.
That's about it, yeah. And then so we come back from the bus and we started renovating a bit more, and your specifications, you had a few specs that you had to put in. Do you remember what they were?
Reading lights.
Reading lights, yeah.
Book nook.
And
a good kitchen. That was it.
And I think we got there.
Yeah, we did.
We got a reading light. We got a little book space for Ali to store all her books. We do have a book limit in the bus, so when she reaches the limit, she's got to donate some books before she's allowed to buy more books, which can be a bit of a confrontational issue sometimes. But we're working on that one. And you've got reading light. We've got a good kitchen. Ali loves to cook, and she's like me. She likes good food. Yep. So that's good. And ticked all the lows on that. The things on the list there.
Yeah.
And then at that stage, I think we're just talking about trekking around.
Yeah.
And then at what stage do you reckon you realised we were going to live in a bus?
Well, I reckon, I realised that, it's probably opportunity around those times that I think you started to put the kitchen around. I'm like, this is a possibility. And then didn't really click that we were actually doing it until a month out. It's just kind of like, it won't happen. And then the month out when we started packing out the house, it's like, oh God, we are doing this.
Now, to be fair, so we were going to not travel until Ali went to uni. That was when Ali's out and we were empty nesters. That was the goal. We were going to travel. Once we decided we were going to do bus life full time, we were going to do it after Ali was school. Tom was in a job that he didn't want to be in. Ali was in a school situation she didn't want to be in. And I, by the time we left, had a job that I actually quite liked. So I was probably the only one really cemented into where we were. But yeah, so about a month out, we started moving, selling all of our possessions, and moving into the bus was when reality sunk in.
It did.
And how'd that go for you, Al?
It was a bit of a whirlwind of emotions. There was a few outbursts.
Yeah, there's emotional.
Yeah, emotional.
And Tom and I actually moved into the bus maybe about 4 weeks before we hit the road, and then Ali stayed in the house on a mattress on the floor until the very last moment, because she sort of just didn't really want to bite the bullet and move into the bus, I think.
Yeah. It was just kind of like if I moved in, we were actually doing it. It's like if I avoid it for long enough, it's not going to happen.
But it happened.
But it happened.
And I reckon for about 6 weeks it was a bit like a holiday.
For 6 weeks, it was a bit of an adjustment. I didn't particularly like it for the first 6 weeks. I mean, we were in Newcastle. It was nice. I did like it, but I didn't particularly like it as the permanent sort of thing. I was just a bit like,
And I reckon at about the 6-week mark, she had a bit of a meltdown and a bit of a homesick, and she wanted to go home. And I said, Ali, we don't have a home. This is home. And it was all pretty emotions high and a bit charged. But I think that was the tipping point. That was the realization that this is going to happen. This is happening.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. And it's just kind of like been up on properties my whole life, nothing short of about 2,000 acres, and then suddenly 40-foot space, not 4 foot, thankfully. 40-foot space, especially with Dad, and it's just no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then once you kind of got over that, I think it was about 6 weeks where you just went, actually, there's no going home. There's no home to go to.
Yeah.
Buck up.
Yeah.
Get in the groove. Enjoy what you can. So I reckon that 6 weeks for all of us actually was probably the adjustment time.
Yeah, probably. Well, Dad settled in, I'm probably going to say around 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think, it took like 2 weeks where it felt like a holiday, and 2 weeks where it kind of started to sink in that this was life, and then 2 weeks of, oh my God, what have we done? And then, okay, we've got this.
Yeah.
I think that's how it rolled. And then I guess we should have a little chat about school.
Yes, I suppose, even though I think we're going to cover that later in detail.
I think we'll go into a full episode in detail about schooling, but we get a lot of questions about how Ali's doing at school. So currently just started her HSC year 12.
Yep.
Studying through Camden Haven High School, Distance Education Unit.
Yep.
So, yeah, from private school, Corinna Christian College in Tamworth.
Yeah.
And take us through that. How'd you feel about transitioning across to distance ed?
Well, distance ed definitely isn't for everyone. I was at Corinna. It definitely wasn't, a smooth fit. I did hate it there. And I couldn't choose what I was doing. I was struggling to focus. You switch to distance ed. I'm entirely self-motivated. It's actually really good. It's probably the easiest transition out of the whole bus life. It just felt perfect from the start. Like a bit odd, but it kind of felt perfect just for me and how I learn.
And I think the fit, because, we'd had COVID online classes and home learning and things. So it wasn't a huge change from that COVID learning to distance learning. I think it's very similar. You got a choice of subjects, a very broad choice of subjects for her year 11 year, which she started in, which she wouldn't have got at her former school.
No. I would have only been doing 3 out of the 6 subjects that I wanted. So
yeah, so there was the diversity. That was another positive.
Yeah.
And what about your schedule? How do you go with your work, scheduling your work up?
So scheduling my work, I usually try and do as much work as I can on Monday and Tuesday, around teacher conferences there. Usually done about Thursday. I usually take Friday off, unless I'm doing assessments. Friday is normally my editing day for assessments. But anyway, year 11, about 10 hours a week, mostly on Monday and Tuesday, not including teacher conferences, because that would definitely not be 10 hours then.
Yeah, so she has a phone call with every subject, the teacher of every subject every week, where she gets that one-on-one if she needs it, talk through anything she needs to know. Mostly it's online based. So we started life with a Netgear Nighthawk, and we really struggled with the internet connection at times. Even though we're up the east coast of Australia, the signal just wasn't good enough a lot of the time. We've gone to Starlink, which is game changed all
Yeah.
our tech life, I
Yeah,
think.
amazing.
Definitely couldn't do podcasts
Yeah.
pre Starlink, so that's really good. And how do you feel about living in a bus now?
Again, it's still weird. It's definitely not what I would have chosen for myself, but I do love it. It's definitely a lifestyle. Get to meet lots of interesting people. Yeah, I do love it.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
We do wish she would get out and adventure with us more. She's
I'm
not
not going anywhere with Thomas.
she's not a very adventurous soul.
No.
No. She
No.
likes her comforts and her
Eh,
and her little known boundaries.
no, I wouldn't say that.
I
Just have
do.
no interest in socializing.
And here you are on a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's been, do you think, the best thing so far?
The best thing, you buying the ute so I can have a tent to kick Thomas out into. No,
That might have been the joke of the week. But
yeah. Probably going to Bowen's probably been my favorite. Did really like Bowen. Worked in butcher shop up there, which was amazing. Yeah, so Bowen's probably top of the list.
Yeah, so Ali got work while we were in Bowen. She worked front of house at a butchery shop, got to meet people her own age and have a bit of a semi-normal social life, I guess. And I think we all enjoyed Bowen more than we all thought we did now that
Yeah.
we've left it. So
Yeah.
when we get to our Bowen section in our podcast, look forward to that because I think we'll we potentially could end up there again in the future. We did all like Bowen, it turns
Yeah.
out. But and apart from privacy and dads, what's the worst part of living in a bus?
Well, on kind of the baking front, I don't have a particular lot of room to cook or move. I'm a bit like Dad. I do hit my head on a few things, and the stairs at the front of the bus, I think I've got myself about 30 times now. I just go down the stairs. Like just 2 days ago, I skinned all the back of my heel going down the stairs, so that's probably the worst part.
Yeah, not thinking and moving too fast and
No,
down the steps we go. Bang, bang,
stairs
bang.
needs a replacement.
Stairs are fine. Your feet are just too big. Anything else you want to add at this point? We're going to do a few more podcasts, I think, in the future about your favorite things and school.
Mm.
Whatever else you want to add.
I honestly can't think of anything right now.
Well, I think that is it from me and Ali this episode. Next episode, at 5, we are back from our Western run and we're going to start digging into more of the renos and more of the setup system we got. So tune in next week and we'll see you all again then. Make sure you follow us on all the social media channels at O'Neill's on the Run and tune in regularly to come along with us on this crazy adventure.